In the Gospel today, the disciples are feeling very afraid. Their boat is being tossed about by the wind, and then they suddenly see someone walking towards them on the water and think it is a ghost. Imagine how frightened they must have felt. We all feel afraid at times, and we are all afraid of different things. Most people like roller coasters, but I am very scared of them. I cannot go on rides like this at all. I am also nervous of rope bridges that are very high up in the air and swing about in the wind, like this one here. When we were walking in Nepal, we had to cross lots of these, and I was very nervous. So when the disciples were afraid in the boat, what did Jesus do to calm their fears? He said to them, "Do not be afraid." Jesus said this on several other occasions when the disciples were frightened by some of the amazing things they saw. Remember when he appeared to them in the upper room after his death, and again he said to them, "Do not be afraid." So what did Peter do when he heard Jesus calling him to come? Peter climbed out of the boat and began to walk towards Jesus. But can an ordinary person walk on water? We can swim and float in water, but if we try to stand without anything to make us float, we only sink. I'd like you to try something. This is a yoga balance pose. Try to balance in this position and see how long you can hold it for. You could ask someone to count how many seconds you can hold it for. Pause the video while you try this. How did you do? Now, there's a trick to being able to hold this pose for longer, and that is to focus on one point or object and keep your eyes fixed on that. Find a point that you can look at and keep focusing on it. Pause the video again and have another go this time at holding your pose. So, were you able to balance without wobbling for longer this time? When Peter stepped out of the boat and kept focusing on Jesus, he walked on the water. Then Peter focused on the wind and the waves instead and became afraid. That's when he started to sink. Just like when we focus on a point, we can hold our balance. But when we don't focus on that point, we start to wobble or fall over. So what did Peter do when he started to sink? He called out to Jesus to help him, and Jesus grabbed him by the hand. Sometimes we are like Peter, full of courage and belief at first, but then we stop focusing on Jesus and we lose faith. When we have problems, we should keep looking at Jesus to help with those problems. He will give us the faith we need to get through anything. When I was faced with that rope bridge, I was very nervous, but I prayed as I walked across, and as I prayed, I could feel myself calming down. So remember, if we forget to focus on Jesus and get distracted by our fears, we can always call out to him, and he will take us by the hand, just as he did with Peter.